You have felt it since the beginning, long before you had language for it, long before you knew how to explain the ache of being present in a room yet never fully received by it. You try to stand where others stand, speak how others speak, move with the crowd, and still something in your spirit remains set apart. This is not because you are broken. It is not because you failed to belong. It is because your life carries a mark that ordinary environments do not know how to welcome. You are not designed to dissolve into places that demand you shrink, dim your discernment, or trade truth for acceptance. The difference you carry is not an accident of personality. It is the early evidence of calling. From childhood, you notice what others ignore. You feel what others dismiss. You question what everyone else accepts without resistance. Even when you attempt to blend in, your inner world refuses the comfort of spiritual sleep. That tension is real. It follows you through friendships, family circles, workspaces, and silent private battles where you wonder why connection seems natural for others yet costly for you. But heaven has never measured your life by how easily you fit into spaces that were never built to recognize your assignment. The same fire that makes you feel unfamiliar in shallow places is the fire that will make you trustworthy in sacred ones. There are seasons when this separation feels lonely, and the enemy tries to name that loneliness as rejection. But God names it consecration. What looks like exclusion can be protection. What feels like delay can be distinction. What seems like distance can be divine strategy. You are learning that not every open door is meant for you, and not every circle deserves your presence. You keep trying to interpret your apartness through human logic, but the truth is higher than that. You are being taught to stop grieving what could never contain who you are becoming. The Spirit speaks through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, letter B, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. That means your difference did not begin with people misunderstanding you. It began with God knowing you. Before anyone misjudged you, He marked you. Before anyone overlooked you, He named you. Before any room made you feel out of place, He had already declared that your life would not be ordinary. So do not keep calling yourself strange when heaven calls you chosen. Do not call it failure when God calls it separation unto purpose. You were never meant to disappear into the noise. You were meant to carry a sound that wakes sleeping souls. Receive that today. And if this message meets you exactly where you are, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe so this word reaches another heart that feels unseen. Then write 111 in the comments if you are ready to stop begging for belonging and start honoring your calling. What hurts you most is not always the event itself, but the pattern. It happens again and again until you begin to wonder whether distance is the only language this world plans to speak to you. You offer sincerity and receive suspicion. You bring loyalty and encounter betrayal. You show your heart and people mishandle what was never casual to you. That repeated pain can make you question your worth. But the deeper truth is that your life has been moving through a furnace that separates the pure from the false. Not everyone walks through that kind of fire, because not everyone is being prepared to carry spiritual weight. You have endured rooms where your silence was misread, your kindness was tested, and your discernment was treated like defiance. Some people called you too intense when you were simply awake. Some called you distant when you were actually protecting what God was refining in you. Some rejected you because your presence exposed what they hoped to keep hidden. What wounded you was real, and heaven does not minimize it. Every tear, every lonely prayer, every night when you asked why your path felt so narrow has been seen. But what you called abandonment was often the painful breaking of emotional dependence on people who could never confirm your identity. There is a reason your trials cut so deep. Your heart is not shallow, so your healing cannot be shallow either. God is not merely teaching you how to survive disappointment. He is building spiritual authority inside you. Authority is not formed in applause. It is formed in endurance. It is formed when you keep your spirit clean after being misunderstood. It is formed when you refuse bitterness after being excluded. It is formed when pain visits your life, yet you do not surrender your tenderness to darkness. That is why your process has felt heavier than the process of those around you. You are not just being comforted. You are being forged. The Apostle Peter writes in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. That is the mystery hidden inside your suffering. The fire was not sent to destroy your future. It was allowed to reveal what could not be ruined. Beneath the rejection, something holy was becoming unshakable. Beneath the loneliness, your spirit was learning how to stand without permission from the crowd. Beneath the heartbreak, your voice was gaining depth. So the pain did not come to define you. It came to uncover what heaven already placed within you. And now, slowly, clearly, irrevocably, you begin to see that what set you apart in sorrow is also what will set you apart in strength. By now you begin to understand that your struggle is not only emotional, social, or personal. There has been a hidden war around your identity. The pressure around your life has often felt excessive because the resistance was never merely about circumstances. Darkness reacts to what it can detect, even before you fully understand it yourself. That is why confusion tried to sit on your mind early. That is why discouragement visited you in waves. That is why so many battles seem to rise at the exact moment you were about to grow, speak, heal, or step forward. The attack was not random. It was targeted. There is something in you that disturbs what is false. Your clarity threatens deception. Your hunger for truth confronts compromise. Your presence carries a kind of spiritual friction, because what is asleep does not welcome awakening. Many times you thought the issue was that you were too different, too intense, or too difficult to understand. But the deeper issue is that what you carry refuses agreement with darkness. Even before your voice became strong, your spirit was already resisting things others learned to normalize. This is why you have felt exhausted in places where other people seemed comfortable. Your soul could sense what your natural eyes had not yet learned to name. That hidden warfare also explains why identity has been the battlefield. The enemy does not waste energy attacking emptiness. He concentrates where purpose lives. If he can keep you doubting yourself, you will live beneath your authority. If he can keep you craving acceptance, you will negotiate with environments that were never assigned to shape you. If he can keep you interpreting spiritual resistance as personal failure, you may step back from the very path God marked for you. But the veil is lifting now. You are starting to see that your life has been opposed because it carries consequence. The apostle reminds us in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. That means the conflict around you cannot be understood only through surface events. You are in a battle that requires discernment, not panic, spiritual strength, not imitation, truth, not performance. You do not overcome by becoming louder than everyone else. You overcome by becoming aligned. You overcome when your mind stops echoing fear and starts agreeing with what heaven has spoken. So this is the hour to stop mislabeling your battle. You are not simply unlucky. You are not merely overlooked. You are not losing your way. You are waking up to the fact that your identity has been contested because it matters. The moment you understand that, you stop retreating from your difference and begin guarding it with wisdom. Comment "I stand" set below as a quiet act of agreement, a way of declaring that you will no longer let hidden warfare rename who God has chosen. And this is where your vision begins to change. What once felt like exclusion starts revealing itself as instruction. You were not left out because you were forgotten. You were called out because you were being trained. There is a difference. When God pulls you away from certain people, patterns, and places, it can feel like loss at first because your human heart naturally grieves what it expected to keep. But in the spirit, separation is often the beginning of clarity. God will remove you from what celebrates a lesser version of you so that you can no longer confuse access with assignment. Some doors closed because they were too small for your obedience. Some relationships faded because they were built on who you had been in pain, not on who you are becoming in truth. Some seasons ended without explanation because explanation would have kept you attached to what heaven had already judged complete. That is why this stage has felt both empty and sacred. Empty, because what used to surround you is no longer there. Sacred, because the silence itself has become a place of instruction. In that silence, you begin to hear again. In that silence, your motives are purified. In that silence, your dependence on noise starts breaking. You are learning that your apartness is not punishment. It is preparation for clean vision, stronger discernment, and deeper obedience. God is teaching you how to walk without the constant approval of people. He is teaching you how to recognize the weight of your assignment without demanding that everyone understand it. That lesson is costly, but it is holy. The chosen path is rarely crowded because it requires surrender many people avoid. Yet every step you take in obedience gives you back a part of yourself that compromise tried to steal. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verse 16. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Even the Holy One embraced separation when communion with the Father required it. So do not despise the places where your life grew quiet. Those quiet places have become workshops of transformation. What looked like being set aside was often God drawing you close enough to cleanse your hearing and steady your spirit for what comes next. And as this message continues reaching those who are walking through their own holy separation, some choose to support that flow in a tangible way, helping these words travel farther to hearts that need strength in the dark. That kind of giving becomes more than a transaction. It becomes participation in the work of lifting, warning, and restoring. Because now you can see it clearly, you were not pushed away from the crowd to live empty. You were pulled aside so that your life would stop feeding on approval and start moving in purpose. What felt like being left behind was, all along, the mercy of God leading you where your true calling could breathe. Now you arrive at the place where resistance no longer defines you, because revelation has begun to steady you. You are no longer asking the old question, "Why do I never fit in?" with the same sorrow that once followed it. Now the answer rises with strength. You never fit in because you were never assigned to become a copy of your environment. You were meant to carry a distinct sound, a distinct burden, a distinct obedience. What once embarrassed you now begins to make sense. The boundaries in your spirit, the discomfort with shallow things, the inability to laugh at what wounded your soul, the longing for something deeper than performance and appearances, all of it was pointing toward your true path. There comes a moment when the chosen one must stop negotiating with the need to be easily understood, not because you become cold, proud, or unreachable, but because your peace can no longer depend on being explained correctly by people who do not see through spiritual eyes. You have spent enough years shrinking your convictions to appear easier to hold. You have spent enough time questioning your discernment because it separated you from the crowd. Now God is teaching you to stand without apology. Not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not in rebellion, but in maturity. This is what growth looks like when heaven has finished stripping false labels from your identity. You are beginning to accept that standing apart is not a temporary inconvenience before your real life begins. This is your real life. This is the holy shape of your walk. You are built for consecrated movement, for clear sight, for faithful endurance, for the kind of obedience that may look unusual on earth but is recognized in heaven. The loneliness that once frightened you has taught you how to hear. The pain that once weakened you has taught you how to endure. The warfare that once confused you has taught you how to discern. Nothing has been wasted. The Word of God declares in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, His own special people. There it is, plain and unshaken. You are chosen, not accidental. Set apart, not discarded. Marked with purpose, not forgotten in the shadows. When that truth settles into you, you stop chasing rooms that cannot read your oil. You stop grieving every separation as though it were defeat. You begin walking as someone who knows that being different was never the wound. Misunderstanding your difference was the wound. But that wound is closing now, so stand in it fully. Let your life carry the signature God placed on it. Let your obedience become stronger than your fear of isolation. Let your calling become louder than the memory of rejection. And if this word has confirmed what your spirit already knew, comment 314 below as your sign that you are no longer begging to fit in where God has commanded you to stand apart. If this message has rested on your spirit like dawn over a long night, then let your heart leave a small like, the way one sets a candle in the window to say, "This light has found a home here." If these words may steady another soul still walking through the fog, then gently share this flame, like passing fire from one lantern to another without losing any of its warmth. If something in you has awakened, leave a comment, not as noise beneath a video, but as a stone laid on the altar of remembrance. And if you wish to keep returning to this river when your spirit is thirsty, then subscribe, like choosing to remain near a well that has spoken peace to you. For those moved to place wood upon this altar so the fire keeps reaching hidden hearts. Your donation becomes a quiet offering of love, carried upward like incense in the night.